Welcome to What Are You Even Talking About? The podcast where we talk a little bit about everything. I am your host, the Nomothete. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to What Are You Even Talking About? A podcast where we talk a little bit about everything. Today, we are going to take a break from personal wellness to a degree, and we are just going to chat with Mr. Roger Peters, tabletop role-playing game hosting site Epic Sages. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Super excited to be here. I can't wait to talk about all the nerdy stuff today. Usually I get to talk about the business side of the nerdy stuff, but today it sounds like we get to do the geek stuff, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I wanted to do a geek podcast today because I usually do a lot more serious tone stuff, and I want people to see a big part of my life was geek culture and is geek culture. Like I read comic books, I watch a lot of cartoons, I watch a lot of sci-fi, I read a lot of fantasy. Like it's been a big part of my life, and it helped direct me in the ways to get me to where I am now, because I took a lot of the stories that I read and learned from, and it gave me a sense of purpose. Because, like, especially with comic books, you get a sense of justice and truth, and all that stuff that you get from comic books, and it's a part of today's society. Like these are situations we may have never thought we were going to go through, but now look far more promising in the future because of the history of geek culture. So
I 100% agree. It's like we were saying right before the show, we get to blame it all on one Iron Man movie.
Yep, one Iron Man movie. Yeah, I don't know where they're headed now, though. They're not looking so hot right now. But maybe it'll get better with some time, with the writer's strike and the actors' strike. Like, I don't know what they're doing. As a former actor, I don't know what they're doing. Like, they're gonna end up losing a lot more money and not getting what they're wanting out of it, I don't think. But we'll see.
As Bender once said, I'll make my own Hollywood with blackjack and hookers. You know what? Forget the Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what they basically did. I mean, they took that page right out of Bender's book. So tell us about Epic Sages and what you do.
Gotcha.
And
yeah. So Epic Sages is a TTRPG role-playing site. So, hosting site. So TTRPG stands for Tabletop Role-Playing Games. So it's games like Pathfinder, Starfinder, any and all that kind of stuff. Basically, when you sit down at a table or in front of a computer with friends and roll dice and play a character that isn't you. Basically, it's a large form of storytelling or collaborative storytelling where you and your friends build adventures together. Sometimes I should say most of the time, it's you and your friends sitting down at a friendly table, eating snacks, playing the story out. Other times, so if you work with people like me that have our companies that are hosting sites and whatnot, we run the games for people and make all the narrative choices easier by building the stories from the ground up and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome.
Our company specifically builds stuff for the groups that are whoever is playing with. Like we build stuff for the specific groups. We don't generally run what's called modules. So like we don't take official stuff from Wizards of the Coast and things and run those modules, because anyone can do that, right? That's not saying there isn't some skill to that in itself, but our improv.
But all the stuff is already there. Like
right,
they have all the stuff that's already built, so they can just use that.
Correct, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We do it sometimes because some people really like those modules, and that's what they want to pay us for, and that's what we do. You know, we're people that if you pay us, we do it. But our other thing is we do way more than just D&D. We do basically any TTRPG someone wants to learn how to play, we'll teach you how to play it as being the people that run the game and you being the players that do the thing. And we have seven systems that we will teach people to be as good as we are so they can run the things themselves and they get certified. So that's all our fun stuff. And then on the side, we sell dice and all the other nerd adjacent accessories to play the game. So
That's nice. When I was in college, we played a few games. We did Heroes Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
We played that, and we played a game called Twilight Imperium.
I've heard of both of those games, but I don't think I've played either of them.
Twilight Imperium is kind of tabletop role playing meets board game, where
Mhm.
everybody gets a part of the board at the beginning of the game, and you literally make out the universe by connecting pieces that you have to adjacent pieces. So each piece
Mhm.
has to connect to the adjacent piece when you put it down until you are finished putting out all the pieces to make the board, which
Mhm.
makes this unique universe every time you play because everyone gets different parts at different times.
Mhm.
So then you pick a race and get your pieces, and each race has an ability only for that race that you can use to exploit the other races throughout the galaxy that you make. And you just end up playing like it's still table where you still roll dice and move like the board's kind of like Risk,
Mhm.
and but you can make alliances and you can use your technical advancements of however you have it to establish how big your empire gets. Like there's actually wormholes that you
Mhm.
can actually put down, and then if you build your society around it, then it's really hard to stop you from moving across the board fast. And like it was just a lot of fun. And the other one, Heroes Unlimited, is basically you just create a superhero and it's regular tabletop role playing games. And that was so much fun as well because the first character I made, I was like, I'm just going to roll randomly on the whole character. I got this. This is going to be a great character. And I literally made a tree that had sticky powers. And with him being a piece of kindling, basically, a lot of his weaknesses had to deal with like fire, and his only superpower was to stick things. I was like, this is terrible. This is terrible. But I played that character until he died, which was about 3 rolls later. But it it went well. I ended up making another character, a vampire character, and I didn't even mean to make that on purpose. So I have a lot of fun when I play because I never know what I'm in for, and it's usually something wacky, and I just have to get used to it. And usually, end up playing wacky characters.
From
So
personal
good.
experience, I feel like that's one of the best ways to play a lot of TTRPGs, especially your first time, is just to like try things out and go. It's always good to have like a character type that like I always play this character, but I think it's always more fun when you're just like I'm going to try all the random mechanics and go, especially your first time. You know what I mean? Before you worry about character building or power building, build something random and see how it goes. At least
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I had a friend in a D&D game make a laser. That was pretty interesting. Um, Between the magics he had and the technologies he had, he was able to build a laser, and then he rolled a natural 20. So it was just like all the luck hit him. And it was like, oh, you really made that happen. And I love those moments in those games. It's just like everything rolls in your favor, and you're just like, yes.
That is a ton of fun. But on the opposite hand, when you completely fail for an entire session, it can be just comedy gold. Just having a
That's
rough
true.
time in character for your in-game week, hilarious.
Like I'm just gonna roll under this door. Roll for it. 1. Oh, not only do you not roll under the door, but you slam into the door and it breaks down. So you got it down, and it's like, we had a lot of games like that. We had a pretty good sized like TTRPG group in my college,
Nice.
and but the closest comic book store was an hour away, so we would have to plan for when we were going to go because we knew we were going to be there 7-8 hours,
Right.
and people just were like, "Y'all are going to be there all night." We're like, "Yeah," but y'all aren't partying. And we're like, "This is the party." And they were like, "We just don't understand." I tried to get my mom into it, and she was just like, "I don't understand this." She was like, "No, I'm just not gonna." I was like, "You have to use your imagination." She was like, "We don't do that here." I was like, "It's like Jesus."
That is
But
one of the fun things you encounter in the business is there are plenty of people that just like don't want to give things a chance like that.
yeah,
But I think they undervalue the amount of the amount of benefits that you get from doing these things, right? So again, me and you kind of talked about this beforehand, but immersing yourself in a new character, doing a new thing, is really healthy for you. I mean, even if it's a fake thing that you're rolling dice with and eating chips and popcorn or whatever at the table and BSing with your friends or family, like all of that is super healthy in its own environment, right? Obviously, you can take it to an excess and it can be bad for you. It can be the weird Yahoo in the basement that can't get out of their own character's head. But before then, if you're using it as recreational and fun and just entertainment stuff, it can really help you in a plethora of ways. I mean, besides just the being social and being out with your friends, it also lets you explore a lot of those like internal ideas and thoughts in a character that's not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you can push forward with all that fun stuff in that regard. And answer a lot of self questions. And sometimes you get really difficult scenarios for your characters in these things because they're not all fun and games, quote unquote, right? Some of them you have some serious moments where dark stuff can happen, and then your character is allowed to deal and process with those things however they would. Now, a lot of the time, admittedly, it kind of gets yada-yada'd, and you kind of just ignore the fact that you watch 38 people get slaughtered in front of you, and it's just a Tuesday. But you have the option, depending on the groups you play with, to explore those feelings and those opinions, and how your character actually thinks about that stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think that it lets you process things quicker. Like as far as like when you're put on the spot in a situation, when you come up across something in a TTRPG, like it'll be like, okay, and this shows up. Now what do you do? And you have to work on what you would do in that situation quickly. And so it helps builds that in our minds that we can deal with things quicker if we need to. Like we're ready for things to happen more so than we just let things happen. And I feel like that could be really healthy for everybody.
One of the silly side effects that I've seen people pick up from kind of that thought, right? In a positive way is people will pull out dice in tense situations and roll them just to figure out how they want to feel. That's something I encourage at my tables. We usually take a D12 if like you don't know how your character would feel, roll a D12 and see where they're at on the scale. 1 through 6 are negative, 6 and above 6 are positive, in varying degrees. And applying that idea to letting people think and be like, how should I react to this? Roll. All right, that's what we're going with, you know what I mean? Is another healthy way of processing stuff.
Yeah, it is so much. Like I used to do that all the time. I would keep a D20 on me, and if something would happen, I'd be like, "Huh." Just roll. Like, yep, that's about right. That is about right. Like, okay, yeah, I feel about right. And like it helped so much just dealing with situations that would have been far worse if I wouldn't have just taken the time for a second, breathe, roll the dice, and it come out something that looked like what I was going through in the moment and be like, yes. Okay.
Well, it's funny how often that actually occurs. You know what I mean? Like how your emotions translate to roles and things. But the other trying to think the right word here. The other mental aspect of it, right, is when you're doing that role, like you said, you're taking that time to breathe and relax and figure out how you feel. But also, it's like when you flip a coin, you flip it 10 times, and whatever the winner of the 10 times is, by the time you're on your third or fourth flip, you know which one you want to win. You know what decision you wanted to come up with. The dice have the same effect. I mean, you know where you want it to roll or what you think it should be or whatnot. It just allows you to remove it from yourself for a second and put it on an object, which takes any guilt, whatever else attached to the decision away from what you want to do.
It's therapy in a nutshell. Maybe if we actually just made ourselves into like the character sheets, I feel like everyone should do that. They should just write down their character stats at any given time and use the roll with your own stats. Like, okay, I got a +2 in intelligence. I should be able to pass this roll. So then roll and then you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to react then. And, just knowing your own stats would help out far more in most situations. And it's just so fun. Now I'm going to have to do that now. I'm going to write out my stats today. I'm going to do a whole D&D character sheet for myself.
Heck yeah.
And see where I land on things and see if I can work on some of the stats I need to build and see where we go from there. That'll be fun. I think that'll make my night far more enjoyable. See if I can't
Well,
get
good.
some of them. Yeah, see if I can't get some of the followers to do it as well. I feel like that might
Heck
be
yeah.
part of my life coaching strategy is build your character sheet first.
Yeah,
At least
that's
it
it.
knows, at
That's a
least
wonderful
it knows,
idea. Yeah, we talked about doing something similar because a lot of our focus is because we're a veteran-run business, right? Me and my business partner.
Oh, awesome.
And we noticed while we were in, a lot of our buddies dealt with the D&D stuff really well. Because not only did they get to kick orcs in the face and do terrible things to terrible people, they also got a chance to, again, go through those tense emotions that they've kind of bottled for a long time. And just a lot of them just start simply by putting themselves in a character sheet. They make a dude that is them in whatever game that we're playing, whether it's futuristic stuff with Starfield, Starfinder. Been playing the new game. It's in my brain. I apologize.
I haven't even heard of it.
Oh, Starfield? The new
Yeah.
Bethesda game? Oh man, that's
Oh.
great. Starfinder is like Pathfinder, which is like D&D, but in the future.
Okay.
And that's another thing that's great about TTRPGs. Can I wrap it back into stuff? Is they can be set pretty much wherever. You know what I mean? D&D itself is super flexible, and you can change the setting to wherever you want to be. It's meant to be fantasy, but you can set it in modern or future. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, I've played a few of those.
But there's so many other out there that there is going to be something that fits the mood of you and your group that you want to do, which is, again, another major thing, because you and your group could get tired of a system and then you just move on to something else. Try something really cool. One of my favorite ones that we're doing currently is called Lancer, and it's a mech-based TTRPG where you're running around, driving around mechs and things. And, you get out of your mechs as your pilot and have conversations that way and stuff like that. But like all the mech combat side of stuff is super crunchy, lots of numbers, all kinds of abilities happening on the board, yada yada. And then you get out to the pilot stuff, and that's where all the role play really happens.
Awesome.
Now, of course, there's some that it's pretty cool. It's by Massive Press, yeah, and they've done a couple systems now, and so far they've all been good. The system that it uses for the role play side, though, is borrowed heavily from a group called Forged in the Dark. That does games like Blades in the Dark. What are the other ones that they do? I want to say Mountain Blade and something else. It's their space one. I always forget what it's called. But Forge of the Dark, great system, way heavy role play, but also heavy penalty on the players. So none of their games are what I would call nice to the players. You are going to suffer, and it's going to be bad. But generally, you're not playing good people 99% of the time. You're usually some kind of jerkwad that is eventually going to get what they deserve. Very rarely do they get a happy ending, which is still lots of fun. You know what I mean? For the roleplay aspect, all that other fun stuff, it's great. But then it goes into. Excuse me, sorry, the little one is needing my attention. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. No problem. That's fine.
Sorry, can you give me like a couple minutes? My apologies. So anyway, after that distraction, where were we? We were talking about something. Apologies.
I might have forgot myself. We were talking about the different types of role-playing games that.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's even plenty of role-playing games that are, shall we say, passive. So if you don't want to slay goblins or other humanoids or aliens or anything like that, and you just want to like create worlds or tell stories together, they have those options out there too. I feel like one of them is called "I Dream of Sheep," but don't quote me on that one because I don't remember if that's the name of it or not.
That's a very interesting title,
right? But the TTRPGs in general are a great extension, as you said, of Greek culture, right? Because they've kind of been a staple since the 70s when Gygax was over there making D&D popular. And then you get all the tropes that are attached. The Yahoos wearing hoods and robes and a blanket and acting out their characters, and the dwarves and the elves and all that fun stuff. And all of that goes back into the geek culture of just kind of taking those fantasy and sci-fi characters to an extreme or a love or whatnot, and offering an escapism that most of the adult world doesn't understand or get a chance to experience often. I, as a business owner, can't tell you how many times I've had other adults be like, "What the heck is this? This is weird." But they give it a shot and then they love it. They figure out that this is a great exercise, something to do. It's one of those things where like 99, well, I'll say 90% of the time, you're going to love it. And if you don't love the first one you try, the second or third one are going to get you hooked because it's going to find those things that you didn't like about the first one and make them better.
Yeah, and there's so many to choose from.
Right, exactly.
Like, there's so many to choose from. And I know I've played certain games where it wasn't, big on fighting, but it was big on like being behind the scenes and what you would do to, to be like the power behind the throne, or just intrigue in mixing, or see the type of deals you would make with other people to get things you want in games. Like, you have so many options to choose from, and games come out yearly. So
Right.
there's always more choices, for you to try out. So, and most people, like I, as an actor, I understand what it's like to play other people a lot. And you're right that a lot of adults don't get that same type of play. And we miss that from our childhoods because that was something we used to do all the time. Like, it's, our imagination was how we play. I'm going to be a policeman today. I'm going to be a firefighter today. I'm going to be an astronaut. Like, and that helped build us into the people that we are. So why not, as adults, continue to do that, to see, play out situations that we might need help with? It's, it's a
Exactly.
part of play therapy. Like, that's what you do, is you reenact things, and you, like, it's like being your own Tony Stark. Like, it's just like being Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. Like, to bring it back to that, like, everyone gets the chance to be somebody outside of their own skin and make choices that they might not make if the situation was on a different footing. And it just gives you all the options.
And sometimes it also gives you the options to be the good guys, right? Because everyone likes to play with the whole I'm a bad guy doing bad things trope. But a lot of the times it is way more benefiting on a personal level to see people just love doing the good stuff that is set up before them. You know what I mean? Being able to see their niceties paid off, saving the orphanage instead of burning it in a fire kind of situation. And having the orphans come back in the epilogue kind of thing, or be important characters later on or whatever, right? One of the things that we like to do is do generational play.
Yeah.
So like when you finish a story in one of your worlds, we'll jump the years forward, 10 to 100 years, depending on the setting. And then you'll make brand new characters and they'll go on their own adventure and so on and so forth. But the tie-in will be characters or NPCs or whatnot from the previous story, so you get to see what happened to them afterwards. Another big thing that we do at the end of all of our stories is have an epilogue for what happened to those characters, kind of in between the time skips and things like that. Because sometimes you finish with the character and the adventure that you just did, where you saved the world, only took a year, so there's a lot of fallout left for your 400-year-old elf.
Yeah.
They still got 500 years to live or whatever, so you get to talk about what they do in the next however long and whatnot, so you can hear their epic tales even after you're done playing them. I don't know, and I think that's fun. Right? It's a real fun thing, and we really enjoy it. Keeps people entertained, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
And that's important. Like, that's real important to keep people entertained. We all need that entertainment. And it's a fun, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not the norm usually for most people. So to get outside of their, comfort zone and to try something like tabletop role-playing games is like amazing. It did a lot for me. Like, it brought me out of my shell so much. Like, it showed me that I had a sense of humor and I didn't take everything so seriously when I thought I did. Like, when I was younger, I was a monster when it came to being serious. Like, it was ridiculous. I came out of a home where I was, strictly Christian, like very, very, very religious. So I took everything way too seriously. And those those games really helped me broaden my imagination and just
Yeah,
help. They were, like I said, you said, they were therapeutic. They were very
right.
therapeutic.
And on a positive note, just because you're that way in game or out of game, that doesn't mean you have to lose those features about yourself if you like them.
Yeah,
If you're a religious person that likes religious stuff, you can implement that in lots of TTRPGs. There's always some silly trope about churches being evil and so forth, but that doesn't have to be the case. So I know there's a lot of people that are scared off of them because they paint that set of stuff in a negative light. And I just, well, I have a speaking voice. It doesn't have to be that way. They can be positive influence. They can be good things. It's really just what you and your table mates make of it.
yeah,
And that goes into some of the stuff that you can explore as a person, right? The positives and the negative sides of we'll say, in-game churches that you have, because I don't necessarily recommend that you play legitimate churches that you have down the street or whatnot. That's probably not healthy. Don't do that. But you can have something similar how you do things, right, and have it play out.
yeah.
And that can make for an enjoyable experience, especially if you have a good GM or DM that knows how to run those games and has some kind of experience in those things, both positive and negative.
And a good GM is needed.
Yeah, good GM is required. Not really. You can always start out with a Yahoo. They'll always get better. That's one of our things is, you're always learning, you're always growing. When we certify people, you start with playing, right? You never learn how to do stuff until you play it first. Though most of our certified GMs currently like jumped into their first game at the beginning and just were like, hey, I'm going to try and do a GM stuff. And then they had to learn the hard way, right? And they picked up bad habits and all that fun stuff. And then we came back and were like, all right, if we tone this down, you're really good at this point. Let's expand on all the other things, so on and so forth. And like in that sense of learning from doing those things and like seeing other people, how they play and whatnot, helps you accumulate a more rounded sense of self and self-worth, especially if you're the one running the stories. Because the nicest part about being a GM or DM, it's a lot of work, but if you're doing it right and you're with a good group of people, they're going to love you for it. You know what I mean? You're going to be their hero, their storyteller, their whatnot. Because not only do you get to see them do super cool things or super terrible things, you also get to have them have those heartfelt moments. They get to work through those issues or problems that they're having in a safe spot. And you providing that safe spot for Will is 100% way more fulfilling than people realize.
Yeah, I imagine. I always wanted to be a GM, but I never took the time to actually do it. And that's something I wish I'd do more of. If I could get the group together, that's the hardest part nowadays.
Scheduling is the worst part. As adults, giving up 4 hours or more of your time to just sit down and play a game is hard. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things, again, that our company recognizes. We block for 4-hour schedules, but, we're actually super flexible with, like, you could do an hour if you want, or you can do 7 hours if that's all you have time for once a month to drop in 7 hours. Cool, pay us, we'll do it. But doing that on the regular, keeps people it's a lot of time. You know what I mean? Like that is the one downside to TTRPGs is they are time consuming. You got to give up a little bit of your real life to be your fictional character. But, on the flip side of that, the benefits you gain from being that fictional character generally outweigh anything you would do in the real world unless you're like making bukus money somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're closing $1 million house deals or something silly, like you got time for D&D, promise.
And I think we should definitely make more time for it. Like it is, like I say, I keep saying it's just so much fun, and you can explore so much, and it's imperative that we broaden our imagination for the world that we have coming toward us. Like, for the future, like you have to have a broadened imagination, and I feel like TTRPGs do that. They build that.
They do. And kind of on that note, the other thing that they do is they spark curiosities. I can't tell you how many things I picked up to learn how to do because I heard about it in a game and I was like, I wonder how you do that in real life. And then I learned how to do it in real life. You know what I mean? A great example is tying knots. You know what I mean? Beforehand, I could do a lot of knot and like a couple other knots that I was taught in the army and things like that. But I was always interested, what would a 17 survival roll knot look like, right? Like, what are good knots? What are bad knots? What would be appropriate? Why does it matter what kind of knot I do on a boat comparatively to normal?
That makes sense.
So having the ability to think about that, I was given the chance to, hey, why don't I take some of my other free time and figure out knots? That's a silly example, but it is an example of something. You know what I mean?
Like that's really cool because I would have never thought about knots. Like they're not in my day to day, so it just comes up so odd, and it's just something that you can work on and then be proud of what you came up with because you actually took the time to learn it.
Right, right.
It builds skills. It's skill building at its finest, and I'm glad you're doing the work you're doing because that is amazing.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Like I would definitely like to come play a game with you guys if I ever got the chance. So I might have to set that up and get some of my friends because we also used to do online what's called e-fetting,
mm-hmm.
and it was like we did wrestling characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like tabletop role playing online. Except we would make the characters, and the way we won our matches were we would have to write a script for the week, and whoever had the better script for their character won the actual wrestling match. And somebody would write out the whole wrestling, like it was done like a pay-per-view or a Monday Night Raw type situation, and they would write out the whole thing, and then at the end of the week we would read the whole wrestling show.
Nice.
And then you didn't know who would win until whoever won the better writing.
Yeah, don't tell Raw that they'll get ideas from that.
Yeah, seriously, as much money as they take from people, they're definitely steal an idea every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other fun part about our business itself is we're mostly online, so we teach people how to do stuff on just through Discord currently, and we do it on other systems. Basically, as long as you have a ability to see me and I can hear you, we can play games. But we do stuff online. I mean, we intentionally avoid VTTs, which are virtual tabletops, because they can be expensive. They're a pain in the butt to learn sometimes, and the connection issues can be hellish if you don't have stuff already perfectly set up with everybody. So like adding new people or stuff like that just makes it hell to do. So we intentionally as a company, we're going to avoid those, let them do their own thing because they have their own hosting stuff that they have anyway. And we'll just do it kind of an old fashioned way. It feels much more like you're sitting at a table with people playing games comparatively to the VTTs. I don't know why, but as someone who's done a lot of both, the way we do it feels way more natural and is lots of fun. And it allows you to sit down in your house and drink a beer and eat chips or be in your pajamas or whatever the heck you're doing comfortably. If you got a couple people over there because you're having a game night or want to hang around one computer, we do that too. And we do lots of other fun stuff. So, so the online part of it makes it mobile and amazing. So like we can play with anyone in the US or in the world as long as they got an internet connection. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how do we get in touch with you? Like how do we put your websites and
sure,
all the information of how we can play these games?
Okay, well, I'll plug really quick. So we are www.epicsages.com is the website. EPICSAGES.com. Epic Sages, all one word, lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter. You'll find us in the first couple results on Google. We have 4 billion links on everywhere, so if you find us on any social media, you'll get to the website eventually. In most places, you can send me an email if you want to talk directly. If you join our Discord, which is on a whole bunch of our social medias, you can message me directly in there. I go by Rook. Speaking of our Discord, if we're going to plug stuff, might as well plug that. The Discord itself has areas for you to find people to play games with. We're not high tier active currently, but every once in a while people ask and look for games, and we don't charge people to find games in there. So if you're trying to find a free group or something like that, cool beans. We only charge you money if you want our services. We're obviously the best, but we don't discourage people from hanging out and having fun and making friends, because that's really the important part, right? As much as we like making the money side of things, the real objective is to make those friends, make the connections, teach people how to play and have fun. Let's see. Again, if you can find us basically on most social media platforms under Epic Sages. My phone number is on the website all over the place. It's 530-515-3575. And that'll come to me directly, and I will answer any and all questions people have with stuff. And I'll get things set up. I mean, we do all the hard work and heavy lifting. As long as you can make a schedule fit for you and your peeps, we got you covered. And then we ship all of our dice and fun goodies. We 3D print things and all that fun stuff as well. So if you're interested in those set of things, we got you covered there too. But yeah, that's
dice set.
Hey, we got some fancy dice. Anywhere from relatively really nice acrylic sets to very expensive glass dice sets that we just got in relatively recently. Those are the expensive ones currently. Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of the other ways to reach us. Really, the website's the best way to get you started to kind of see what we're like and where things are at. But again, any and all the social medias, feel free to reach out on some there. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Sorry, not Twitter, X now.
Yeah, that's fun.
And what else is there? We're on Spotify. We have our own podcast, which, by the way, Mark here should be making an appearance in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's about 2 weeks.
Okay,
should
perfect.
be on there.
Sweet. Can't wait to have you.
I would love to talk to you about some game ideas I have, or a comic book I'm trying to start. I would like some feedback on, so I might get in touch with you about that, because I feel like your mindset is in a good place to work.
As a side note, we actually know a publishing company that works specifically with comic books and cryptocurrency. That's their two big things.
Oh, wow.
Not to put. Yeah, I'll have to talk to you with it on the DMs. We can talk about that. I'll try and hook you two up, because he's a big comic guy, and he's one of our good friends.
That would be awesome. That's where my thing is. I want to write a book, and I'm going to do a personal wellness book, but I'm also wanting to do a comic book, because that's where all my love lies, and I got comic books all over the place, and I'm just like, I need to draw them. I need to be able to draw them. So I've been working hard on that. So like you see on my links, some of my older art, I need to put some of the newer stuff up. But thank you.
Let me tell you what, the nerdy side of things, I am so glad AI has come around, because I have great ideas, but I can't draw for Jack Diddley.
Yes.
And AIs get close enough where I can edit things and make them look nicer. Speaking of the Discord, we've recently had a contest or whatever, because I made a Weifu for the company. I was like, let's make a company Weifu. Why not? It'll be fun. Because if you didn't know this, I'm a big weeb. Or at least that side of the geek is strong with me. But so we made that for the company. We got silly mascots and other things, but we recently had a competition for her name. And of course, right after the competition ended last Friday or whatever, someone's like, hey, what about this name? And it was perfect. We're like, all right, sorry for everyone that's in the competition. We're using this name, and that name's going to be the middle name. It'll be great.
Nice. That's what I want to do with my mascot, because I use the Plague Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on to an AI program, and I was like, I just put in everything with Plague Doctor, any word I could think of, and put it beside Plague Doctor and see what it would come up with. And they came out, I put in Patriotic Plague Doctor, and some of the things that popped up were interesting, to say the least. And I just decided that every picture I got, I would just draw it by hand. And it made me feel more like I had done more for it. And I was like, okay, I drew it. So now I can say I did that.
Hey, that's awesome, though.
It was a lot of fun.
That's a great use of it, honestly.
Yeah, like it literally that's been my saving grace, to come up with things to draw on those days where I can't think about what to draw.
So I got to ask, just because you brought up the comic book stuff.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comic series?
Ooh. There have been some good ones. Right now, I'll say it's Defenders Beyond.
Okay.
Pretty good one. The Immortal Hulk was pretty good. I really liked that series. Just because they had the Green Door and the One Below All. And like I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the ending of that was just amazing. Like, to come to find out who the one below all is in relative to like the one above all, it was just wow. Like, it just hit me uh in a certain way. I was just like, this is great. This is just an amazing series. Sins of Sinister has been pretty good too. Um, they took Mr. Sinister in a way I never thought they would. Even though now I've figured out that they've done this, like this started in the '70s, and they're just now bringing it to roost now with how they're doing the X-Men. I think the way they've done the X-Men lately is interesting by giving them their own nation and own planet to deal with, and like all the situations they're having against that. Like, there's been some good ones lately. Um, Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals was pretty good.
It's crazy how much better the Eternals comic books were than the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Like, if they didn't take the right parts of the Eternals and make that into a movie, and they had too many characters. Like, and we've seen that they can do a movie with a bunch of characters, but it was like the characters just were too slow, and
Well, none of
when a
them got
part of
enough.
the
None of them got enough screen time. I mean, you have no care for
yeah.
any. All of those characters could have get snapped by Thanos, and we would have been like, "Yay!"
Yeah, but then they asked them like, "Where were y'all when Thanos did his thing?" And they're just like, "We didn't want to get involved." What? The whole universe just got snapped in half. Like, what are you talking about? This is the perfect time for you to get involved. And because they didn't play Thanos like he was an Eternal, they couldn't use that storyline to connect them. Like, they could have used that and be like, "Oh, we know of Thanos. He is our brother." Like, they could have said anything, and they just chose not to. Like, that's been my issue with the later stuff that Marvel's done recently, is it doesn't really connect to anything. And just, I mean, in the beginning it didn't connect either, but they made it connect while it was like the process was going through. And it's just like they're just picking random stuff that they feel are going to do the same thing Iron Man did, and we're like, we're going to pick something random and make it great. And it's like, but you're not, though. You're choosing stuff that is just really random, and you can't make stories out of. And then you're trying to force stories together from older stories that need other characters in them that you don't have or you're not working with at the moment. So it kind of messes up the storyline, because they're talking about doing Secret Wars as a movie, and you don't have Doctor Doom in your series yet. Like, how are you doing Secret Wars without Doctor Doom?
Right.
Like, Kang is not going to be the replacement for that. You just can't use that. Like, it's Doom's story, and it's just going to be interesting to see what they do with it, with how the last phase of the MCU has been going.
Yeah.
We'll
see. My hope for the MCU currently is that they slow down on the productions. You know what I mean? They drop it down to like back to 1 or 2 movies a year at most, and maybe two series. 2 movies, 2 series. I think that would be way digestible, and they could really up the quality a lot because they're not worrying about jumping to the next thing. And maybe on a plus note, this writer's strike will force them into doing that more or less.
Yeah.
Because we're about to have a year of no comic book movies because all the MCU stuff is on strike. And how long has that been going on for now? 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a while, and now you got the actor strike too. Like, even though they could just use other actors, there's thousands upon thousands of actors in the world that they could use. They don't have to spend $20 million on one person. And if they would look at that, because they got to remember, when Robert Downey Jr. got the role of Iron Man, he was making a comeback. Like, he needed a job, and he was willing to do whatever job he could get. And then by the time Avengers Endgame came around, he was making $20 million to just be in the movie a little bit.
Right.
So it's like, remember what made you big and go with that framework. Like, don't always look for the most highest paid actors, because they said, what's coming out? What they said was coming out soon. With Fantastic Four, like, everybody they've offered any of the roles for Fantastic Four wants $20 million up front because of who the Fantastic Four are. And it's like, they've made 2 different versions of the Fantastic Four, and they've been terrible.
I don't know. The one that came out first, the first Fantastic Four was great for kids. It was a good kids.
It was great for kids. Yes, it was. The second one wasn't long enough, but was long enough. Like, it was not good for what they tried to do with it. And they were like, let's make the Fantastic Four young. It's like, but they're not young. They weren't kids in the comics. Like, and I see what y'all are trying to do, make it edgy for the new age, but y'all aren't doing the characters justice. And my issue, like, I can't be mad at the first ones because they made it comic booky. Like, it felt like a comic, watching a comic. So it was good for what it was. But if they're going to do it now, you don't have to have like Emma Stone playing Sue Storm. You don't need a bunch of named actors, who are $20 million per film to play these characters. When you can just get good, wholesome people who try to play the character the best they can. And I feel like a lot of actors don't see that anymore once they get to that point of their like being a celebrity. Once you can make $20 million for being in a movie for 45 minutes, like, why not? And they're striking, because they're like, we're striking because we need more money. We work hard and all this. And it's like, but do you? Because a lot of stuff is CGI now. And a lot of what Iron Man did in the last movie was done in a green screen with just his head. Like, and it always shows him inside the helmet. And that's about all you see. You don't really see him interact with anybody. And a lot of the interaction that he does have with people are CG. So How hard are you really working? Why do you need $20 million to do it?
And on that note, maybe not the actor side of things, but pay the crew better. You know what I mean? If you're making a $4 billion movie, you better not be paying someone minimum wage to be working on it. You know what I mean? Like, especially
when they're making your dreams come true. Like, for a lot of people, like, seeing these movies is like they've always wanted to see it on screen done in a way that's like, yes, these are these characters. And yes, I'm finally seeing the storylines I've always wanted to see on the screen. And then you half-ass them. And it's like, and then your tech people who are making these dreams possible are not getting paid well. And then you expect them to work over 40 hours every week to produce this in a time frame that's almost ridiculous. And they do it every time. Like, it's just something they need to work on. Like, I definitely believe in the writer's strike. I definitely don't believe in the actor's strike.
I feel that. On that note, kind of, if you need something to do when the fallout from the writer's strike and whatnot, I suggest TTRPGs because you get to do all that fun stuff yourself.
Yep.
Not to plug us or anything like that, but just like this will be the time to give it a try. Go spend your $30-$40 on a book, either a digital PDF or a real hands-on one. Do you some reading, read it up, figure it out, find your friends and play a game. I can almost guarantee it, you will not regret it. Now, I will caveat, there are some really terrible TTRPGs that are not fun. They look fun on paper, but when you try to play them, they're too complicated and they're a lot to work on and yada yada, and they don't make sense. You can change TTRPGs to make them better for you. They're just a book. They don't control all the rules. You do as the person who's making them. So if you don't like something, change it. And that's another wonderful thing about TTRPGs in general is they are fluid in their craftsmanship, right? Everyone who runs them can run them a little different, and it doesn't hurt anyone who's playing. It can only make things better, and it helps push things along. So takeaway from that is, give it a shot. If you don't like it, change it.
And that's a question.
With that, don't change it. Find a new system.
We changed the system for one game we played. It was called Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual mathematics part of the game, like the system itself, was terrible. Like, it was just terrible. And no one could understand it. Like, it was just hard to use. So we just changed it to a D20 format. and just use the storylines from that game, and so we could play the game. Like
Mhm.
it was just so terrible. Like I had nightmares about that game. But it looked so much fun on paper, and like building your own angel character and like seeing the different like specs of angels and all that. It was like really cool to see, but it was not fun to play the first time we played it. It was god awful.
You know what?
But
Sometimes that happens with games. Some games are just super duper crunchy. To give a good example of an opposite style, right, is the Star Wars TTRPGs from Fantasy Flights. Instead of using numbers a lot of the time, I mean, there's still numbers. You still got to do math for like health and stuff, but you're not doing anything over 100, basically, right? But all the dice have symbols on them instead of numbers, and it's a way more narrative-based thing. Now, you do still do subtraction and addition because you add the symbols together and subtract them from each other and stuff like that. But in general, most sums are under 10. So if you can subtract 7 red dots from 6 blue dots, you're good to go, kind of thing, right? And it's a way more narrative-based story. And there's a couple other ones that are kind of like that. Another good one is Legend of the Five Rings. I love Legend of the Five Rings. It's kind of a based in a wannabe Japan style setting where you're playing a samurai lord or someone of equivalent status, running around and causing havoc, just like you do in D&D. But it also focuses more heavily on the intrigue side of things. So, like, it's not always about combat. Honestly, combat in that game can be rather brutal for the players. But talking your way out of situations and being honorable and all that fun stuff is all covered in those games really, really well. It's a fun system to do, and it's great, honestly. And that's again, we're gonna wrap it back around to the front for us and my shtick. There's so many choices you can run with TTRPGs, so you shouldn't be afraid to go out and try stuff.
I'm gonna see if I can get my family to play a game and see if I can't find something they would all like. Because I would love to see my mom playing a TTRPG because that would be so out of her way. Actually, I know how I can get her to play one. It would have to be about Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay, well, there's plenty of games that do Star Trek or Star Trek-esque things. Heck, I think Star Trek itself has a TTRPG that's done by I don't have the book around me. What's it called? Anyway, it's a 2D20 system, if I remember correctly. So not quite a D20 system, so a little bit extra to it, but it's a licensed Star Trek game.
I might have to look into that because I think she actually played that. Now, if it was about 10 years ago, there'd be no way in hell she would ever. But I think now she'd be more willing to play with. I'm gonna have to see if I can't get her into that, or if I can't get my D&D group back together and we come, on Epic Sages and try to do something there.
Hey,
Because I have a friend you definitely need to meet. I think y'all will hit it off perfectly.
As per usual, I am always happy to meet new people and discuss things, whether or not it's business related. So bring them in. Let's be
awesome. I also want to touch on some business stuff too. Later on in the DMs and stuff, because like I said, I'm still building what I'm trying to do. Like I'm in early stages, so I need as much ideas as possible.
Side note. Pitch the Discord one more time. We do have an art section in the Discord so anything you feel like you want to throw up there, like feel free to toss it out. I don't know how your art side of things does, but if you need people to quote unquote critique, everyone's going to say they love it 99% of the time. So don't be afraid of stuff. But if you're looking for people to be like, hey, I need some hints or tips, there's plenty of good artists in there too.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely need that. Because like I said, I've only been drawing for 5 years. And everybody's like, that's a long time. And I'm like, no, it's not really. Not
for an artist, yeah.
No. Like, that is nothing compared. Like, I'm still working on taking the time to draw something for more than an hour and not be like, okay, I'm done. And, like, just the patience it takes to be an amazing artist. Like, I'm putting forth the work every day to try to do better, but I know I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So that would definitely help out a lot. And, having a community of people who see things the way I do would help a lot too, I think. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I had a great time here.
It's been wonderful. I definitely will be getting in touch with you more about things because I feel like this is a great friendship that's starting. Um, and yeah, it has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will talk to you soon. And you have a great day. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I have to do. I meant to do this at the beginning of the episode, I was supposed to ask you a question that the last guest asked, because that's what we usually do at the beginning of the show is we take a question that the last guest asked for the new guest. But I didn't look up the question because I didn't feel like it was prevalent to our conversation.
Oh,
but
ask away. It'll be fun.
No, I don't even remember it. I didn't look it up beforehand. But I want to ask you, what's the question you have for the next guest? It could be about anything without knowing who the guest is.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's see. If you could be any fantasy-based race, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like a personal wellness person I'm gonna get to ask. So like that'll really throw them off and give them something to actually think about.
They're gonna be a gnome. Almost guaranteed.
You think so? I would say cleric.
Oh, so not class, but like a race, like orcs.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see no. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll see though, and I'll let you know.
Perfect.
All right, but you take care. Thank you again for being on the show. It's been wonderful, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Take it easy.
So that concludes our show for today. Please take a moment to check out the links of our guests. They'll be in the description below and on the screen as well throughout the interview, like you saw. Yeah. Please also check out my links, and we'll talk to you soon. You guys have a great day. Thank you for today. Thank you for yesterday. And thank you for tomorrow. Always remember to question your reality. And with every end, there is a beginning. Take care.